Hey everyone, this is Car Ray Rob, where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob, and we want to welcome you to our podcast. Say hello to my little film.
Hey there, it'll be just a little while till Ray and Rob spit their spittle. Come on, check out of the hospital. So grab some of your best peanut brittle. This will be a darn good transmittal. And say hello to my little film.
Yes, everyone, we want to welcome you to a brand new episode of Say Hello to My Little Film. On this podcast, Ray and I take turns recommending movies that we love to the other to see if we can get them to love them as much as we do.
Yes, Rob is going to be recommending a movie to me that I've never seen before. He's going to see if I like it, and we call this our fresh perspective on a retrospective review. What? Why are you laughing?
You know why I'm laughing.
Why are you laughing? Stop laughing.
Because this is my episode, and not only is
I
it
know
my
why.
episode, this is my birthday month, and my new tradition I have decided is every year on my birthday month, I am going to mess with you.
You did this last year. People can go back and check out July's episode of Say Hello to My Little Film. It was horrible.
It was great. It was Pink Flamingos, and it was awesome, and everybody should go listen to it. But that is correct. I'm going to recommend a movie to Ray. Normally, I don't recommend movies that I think Ray is going to hate. That's not the point of this podcast. And I'm not really doing
But he's
that
breaking
now.
the he's breaking the rules.
I am not. But I am recommending a movie that's going to push you out of your comfort zone
And over a cliff.
But silver lining. It is related to a joke from one of your favorite TV shows that you're finally going to truly get after you watch this movie.
Seinfeld.
Nope, not Seinfeld.
Darn it. I was hoping it was a Jerry Seinfeld movie.
No,
Okay.
nope. It is Rick and Morty.
Okay.
It's a Rick and Morty joke that you will
There's
get.
no way I can hate anything that comes out from Rick and Morty.
So we're going to find out, right?
I guess. So, how about you tell me, Rob, what do you got?
What do you got? What do you got? What do you got?
Well, what I got for you, Ray, is a movie that I do truly love, but it is a bit of a harder watch, and that is the 1983 science fiction body horror film Videodrome, directed by Mr. David Cronenberg.
Oh, I've heard the name Cronenberg.
Exactly,
That's
which
weird.
is the joke of
Yeah,
Rick and Morty.
That's weird, weird, ugly-looking monster people.
Exactly. So this.
I get it. All right, I got the joke. We can move on. We don't have to.
No.
We don't have to.
You're not going to get away from me this easy. No. You are going to watch Videodrome and you're going to like it. But
Am I? Though, do you
I
think
actually, there's a possibility. There's always a possibility. I even said last year there was a possibility that you would have liked Pink Flamingos. You just don't have a good taste.
So is there a stronger possibility I'm going to like this one, or a less strong possibility?
I don't know what my betting odds on this would be, but maybe better. Maybe better.
Okay,
Probably
so.
better. Probably. I'm going to go probably.
I'm in for a wild ride.
You are. No matter what, you are in for a wild ride. So for those of you who have never seen Videodrome, it stars Mr. James Woods, who is a lunatic these days. Just going to FYI that one. And Debbie Harry, who was also featured in a recent episode as the mom in Hairspray.
Oh, yes.
That's right. So she is back again on a different show this time. But she is fantastic in this movie. And it is about a man named Max Renn, who is like a head of a small little UHF television station. And he starts picking up these transmissions of snuff films. From maybe a pirate radio station, and there's all these kind of like hypnotic messages and stuff that kind of goes along with it, and a big mystery about where it's coming from and who's doing it and all of these things. And he obviously kind of gets wrapped up in this mystery.
As one would.
Psychosexual kind of stuff, and it's going to be a lot of fun, Ray. I'm just letting you know right now, a lot of fun, and you're gonna.
I love the
love
topic. Seems really fun.
Yeah, it is a cult classic. Again, a lot of people love this movie, and many people consider this his best movie. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because I actually do enjoy quite a few David Cronenberg films. And to be fair, there were a couple different options for me when I wanted to show you a Cronenberg film. But this one probably ties in a little bit more with the joke from Rick and Morty than some of the other ones that I may have gone with.
All right. Well, I guess we're doing this.
Oh, we're doing it.
Well,
we're doing it.
People out there in listening land.
We're doing it.
People out there in listening land, if I got to do it, then you got to do it. So if you haven't seen Videodrome from Mr. Cronenberg, then pause the podcast. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go watch it. So you do the same. Pause the podcast. Go watch Videodrome. Come back when you're done. If you can. If you actually can. I don't know if I'll be able to, but if you can, come back, join us, and listen to the second half of this podcast where we're going to see if I like this movie as much as Rob wants me to.
Ray and Rob are currently watching the film. You may be also watching the film. If you're not, then you're listening to me say that Ray and Rob are watching the film. They'll be right back when they're done watching the film.
Rob, we live in overstimulated times.
You ain't just whistling Dixie, my friend.
We do. That's a quote from this movie, and I agree with it.
Yeah, absolutely. We are back. We are back from watching Videodrome. We are survived. We are
barely.
Long live the new flesh. But so I am very curious to hear what Ray has to say about this movie. The look on his face is priceless. Nobody can see it, but it is priceless. But before we jump in, we normally kind of maybe come up with a question, and some movies, lend more to that than others, and I think this one most definitely does.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. There's a lot to dissect. If I had the willpower, I'd want to watch this again, but it'd be too exhausting.
But so that I think that for me, I'm just going to throw this question out there and I think this is a pertinent question. I think maybe you're even thinking it too. I don't know, but we'll see. And that is, did Videodrome come true?
Good question.
So I think that's the question we need to go with.
That's going to hurt my brain thinking about that, but that's a good question.
It's
not too dissimilar from certain types of questions we asked before, like kind of like, is satire dead, or like, is this real now, and does it hurt the movie in a way? But
sure.
But this is a little more obtuse, and I think it's good for this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there's a lot about this movie that seems rather prescient and stuff that can be viewed in maybe some different ways. And especially when it comes to the TV industry in general. I think we can all kind of agree that, there's definitely some, boundary pushing in TV that, obviously it's kind of maybe grown in certain regards, but also, maybe in some ways it's gotten more stringent. I don't know. It's kind of a weird place.
Yeah, it is. It is a weird place, even with like what streaming networks now and kind of how they view, like views,
Right.
like you see all the time, like, things aren't getting renewed for multiple seasons, even if it's well liked, because and it kind of reminded me when there was that early scene with Max and his other board members, and they were watching. I think it was like the Asian pornish, soft pornish thing,
porn,
and they were like, what did they say? It was too boring.
It's like, it's not tacky enough.
Yeah, it's not tacky
enough.
It's not
tacky enough to get me off.
Right. It made me think, because
I
remember I read something a couple months ago. Netflix is like looking to make shows that you can watch while scrolling on your phone. And I'm like,
sure.
not like, it's not, like, oh, this show's too good, we don't want to make this. We want something that's a little worse that they don't have to pay attention to.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of, and so in a way, kind of Videodrome was talking about that. Like, way back then, like, sooner or later, like, TV executives aren't going to be looking for quality. Quality is not the number one thing they're looking for.
Definitely. Talk about society as a whole, coming into the 80s, into the 90s. Like, there was definitely a a sense of pushing boundaries in a way that was almost edgelord, to use a modern term on it, where it was like, everything had to be pushed further and farther, and kind of almost to the point of just trying to offend people just to offend people,
For sure.
or whatever, and that kind of thing. And I think Videodrome picks up on that at least somewhat,
Definitely.
in its themes. Obviously we were just talking about, the way that this, television station, it's CIVIC-TV.
CIVIC-TV.
Civic
Channel
TV
83,
Yep.
CIVIC-TV.
is kind of viewed, and Max Renn as a character, like he's looking for the next big thing, which is obviously how he, quote unquote, if you will, stumbles onto Videodrome, which is obviously he didn't stumble on it by accident. Right, he thought he stumbled on it, but he did not do it by accident. And but it kicked everything off, was this desire to push the limits.
Yeah, and I think that's where the movie, like, it starts to kind of like let you know what you're getting at here, and I kind of, again, there's lots of ways you can kind of view this, I think, because I kept, at some parts of the movie I was thinking one way about what this movie was telling me, and some parts I thought the other way, and I actually think that was a good thing. But like, we're talking about pushing limits. It's like the violence we see in us becoming, like, dulling our senses to it,
Right.
like, in a way, it kind of, I kept thinking about who's to blame. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
is Max to blame? Like, are the TV executives the one to blame for, like, trying to dull us, or allowing more and more, like, filth into our regular lives that we become dull to it, in that sense? Or is it like our own personal responsibility to not expose ourselves to it, even if it is easily accessible?
Definitely. And I think that there's a certain gradation even within this movie. So, Max Renn is a character in CIVIC-TV. While they want to push the boundaries, they still understand that it's not necessarily reality.
Yeah.
And it kind of gets, so when Videodrome becomes part of the conversation, and he ends up, having a meeting with Masha.
Right. He didn't think of it as a snuff. He didn't think it was a snuff show.
Right. So when he put her on the trail to go find it, when she comes back and it's like, you don't want a part of this, it's, it's literally snuff TV. A line that I think that was really interesting, and I think this is really kind of goes to the heart of a lot of, maybe even, modern culture when around television or around extremism or whatever. It's like, the thing about the reason that Masha said that Max didn't want anything to do with Videodrome is because it has a philosophy.
Right.
Like, which just goes to show that, like, he doesn't necessarily have a philosophy. He's chasing ratings, if you will. Like,
Yeah.
that just, like, pushing the boundaries is just ratings to him. It's not actually a belief structure in anything. And I think that there's a certain amount of that can be imprinted on things that we see today, where it's people without a philosophy who are kind of harnessing that, like, those kind of instincts, the violence and things like that, to push the boundaries, but there's no real philosophy behind it. It's basically, or maybe even like a sense of control, not to sound like overly conspiratorial, but just this idea of that, like dulling the senses, or imprinting this onto your mind. Whereas Videodrome is real.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is an actual philosophy. It is dangerous in that way. It's not fake.
Right. It's not fake at all. But the way you kind of describe it there, though, like, I never really thought of Max as like a bad guy, though. Like,
sure,
of course, he is the protagonist, and
Right,
we've
right.
said multiple times, you always kind of find a way to defend the protagonist or
Right.
the lead, no matter what. But again, like, I don't know, like, was he ever going to air Videodrome? I don't really. What do you think? Like, do you think he ever would have aired it on his own?
I mean,
I don't know. I don't know if they ever specifically say.
Well, I think the interesting thing about that is, for him, even up to that point, even
Yeah.
when Masha, like, told him, like, it's real, he didn't really think it was real.
Right.
So I think if that were the point, where his information stopped with Videodrome, and he basically got to the point where he had the opportunity to view it without knowing anything more than what he knew in that moment, he probably would have aired it.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that's not where his story ended. He continued on down the rabbit hole of Videodrome.
Yeah.
And it, obviously took him to a lot of other places. So I think by the end of the movie, no, like, he would
Right.
not have shown Videodrome. But, again, by the end, he knew a lot more than he knew in that moment.
Yeah, and I think the movie says a lot, and we could kind of get stuck in some rabbit holes. But first off, can I take a break from some of the themes and talk about some of the things that we actually see? Because the visual effects were quite good.
Oh my God, Cronenberg is just So good.
And I know you were kind of saying in the before section about the Rick and Morty
The Rick and
jokes,
Morty joke.
and I had a feeling what Cronenberg was going to look like in this
Sure.
movie because of my exposure to Rick and Morty, which I love. And it did justice. The movie kind of held up in its
Oh
own
my God.
way. Like some of the visual effects, though you can tell what they are. I love the practicality and just seeing the creativity of how they kind of get those things done.
Yeah, I think for me, my favorite, in this rewatch, I think I said my favorite effect is the breathing television
Yeah, that's
with
cool.
like the screen that like blows out and then he like puts his face in it.
Yeah.
And it's so good. It looks good. It feels real. It's got a texture to it, if you
Yeah.
understand what I'm talking about.
I do. I'd love to see the Corridor Crew guys on YouTube. Great channel if you like movie special effects to check it out. I probably should send it to them or recommend it to them.
Right.
But not that I have a connection with them. or anything. I would just literally just
Get 'em
spam
on
the
the phone,
comments
Ray.
and
Get 'em
tell
on
them.
the
But yeah, that was really great. The scar, like Max's scar, and
Yeah,
like
where he puts
kind
the
of
tape.
kind of turning himself into a video
Yeah.
a VSH
Yeah.
machine, I guess, in a way.
Mhm.
He can play the Videodrome tapes in a way and hide guns, which
Yeah.
I knew that was going to come back around.
Right, totally.
But that was really, that was cool and well done. And like, again, yeah, you can see the tricks behind it and stuff, but it still looks really good.
Oh yeah, it's aged beautifully. But that's the whole thing is Cronenberg, he's known for body horror.
Right.
So like the things that really have to do with the human body. So he obviously nails that stuff really, really well. And it's good too because his style of filmmaking and the themes and the topics that he tackles need that, that kind of that grime, that realistic tactile feeling. And obviously Videodrome has that in spades.
So let's there was some predicting of the future that I think the movie kind of does really well, and then there's some things where I'm like, yeah, kids won't even get any of this nowadays. I'll just throw some of those at you really quick. Like first of all, like pirate TV,
Right.
Like, why would we need to pirate TV?
Well, it's pirate TV.
Does that just mean you're watching Netflix without a subscription?
Right, exactly. That's exactly what that means.
Yeah.
I think it should be the modern internet. It's the dark
pretty much.
web at this point.
The dark
Yeah.
web would, I guess, be the closest equivalent.
Especially to find Videodrome. I'm sure that's out there. Don't go looking for it though.
No.
Don't do it.
And then wasn't there a point where like the Mr. Oblivion guy said something about like we all will have like our computer names,
Special names.
yeah,
We'll
our
have
special names, but like
Brian
these like
Oblivion. Yeah.
kind of what you would relate to like maybe like he didn't see it specifically, but like kind of like your online name,
Yeah,
like
your
your online
usernames
handle,
or
your
whatever.
username. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, we do have those. Like on the internet, we go by Car Ray Rob.
Right.
But so
That
I
is
thought-
not our real name
that-
if you didn't know.
yeah, that future foretelling was really accurate. Pirate TV didn't last, but that's okay. We know what it meant.
Well, yeah, it just morphed into something maybe more dangerous because, again, like the internet itself is, way beyond what you could have ever possibly imagined at this point.
Right, and I think that's kind of what even the questions ask, like almost like, is the internet Videodrome
Right.
in a way?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I exactly. I think that there's a lot that could be said about that. At one point, Brian Oblivion says the television screen is the retina of the mind's eye.
Right.
Television is reality, and I think that that's something that we, as a society, have to think about when we're watching things on TV, but really on the internet too.
Right.
I mean, and it's this idea of like, what is the point of those things? Like, what is the purpose?
Or exactly, yeah. Especially when you think like, at least when you watch Netflix, yeah, there's a lot of junk on it, but you're kind of picking it. But on social media, the internet, which is probably what Videodrome is closest to, in a lot of ways, social media picks what you see.
Right.
So that's where it's like that reality that you're seeing and thinking is true has been dictated to you. You're really not making this totally of your own free will. If you've done a good job of trying to control your algorithm,
Right.
but it takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
But so you got to be careful with that. And so that that's something that's very interesting that this movie kind of touches on.
Yeah. Well, and especially because of the idea of the tumor. This
Right.
idea where it like basically grows new flesh within
Yeah,
you.
not a tumor. It's not a tumor.
No, it is a tumor.
As Mr.
As-
Brian Oblivion says, it's not a tumor. It's a new growth. It's a
Right.
new part of the brain.
I guess that's fair. That's fair. But then when Bobby Convex gets shot late in the movie and basically explodes in tumors, it's like, okay, well, maybe
New growth.
new growths. But this idea that it kind of lends itself to hallucinations,
Yeah.
if you will, like where you're kind of almost creating your own reality. And his daughter at one point says he came to the realization that he believed public life on television was more real than real life in the flesh.
Mhm.
So, and I think that that's something that a lot of us struggle with today.
Oh yeah.
You know, where this idea of like what is real and what's not. And I think that that kind of you can maybe look at it in a few different ways, where it's like, you know, things become less real, so you take them less seriously, but then you overreact to other things.
Yes.
You know, and it's like it's like a I don't even, I guess
So
I'm
complicated.
right. I'm so complicated. I'm
But-
looking for a metaphor right
yeah,
now, but
it's
my
tough.
mind's going
Well,
blank.
I'm thinking of real life though. You remember like the Pizzagate stuff?
Yeah.
In Washington D.C., where like people thought this thing was real.
Yeah.
They go to this location and it's not. It's
Right.
made up. It's
Right.
totally fake. But they were
Yeah.
totally believed it. In their reality, it was real, and they were trying to do something noble, but it was just they had been messed with
Right.
in a way.
They were hallucinating, if you will.
Essentially, essentially they were made to believe something existed that didn't. So
Yeah.
I think that is a hallucination, right?
Yeah. So, you know, obviously Max Renn, you know, goes down the rabbit hole of Videodrome. You know, he sees
Yeah.
the tapes and all of that, and then he kind of gets in this relationship with Nikki, and this kind of psychosexual aspect of it comes really more into play. Like obviously, like Max Renn is flirting with the sexual aspect of television. You know, in the beginning, we
Yeah.
all know all about that. But you know, Nikki brings a whole nother element into it. Who's played by Debbie Harry, who are returning to
Really?
Car
Yeah.
Ray Rob, because she was the mom in Hairspray.
Yeah, I say I don't think we've ever had somebody return to the podcast this close to their
within-
last
within-
episode.
yeah, just last month. But yeah, so and she's fantastic, and I think sells the role beautifully because
Mhm.
she's kind of has this sexuality about her that just oozes.
Yeah.
And I think so she plays off of Max well, who is I mean a sexual being of his in and of himself,
Sure.
but maybe not quite to the extremes that Nikki is.
Yeah.
So like she cuts and things like that.
Yeah.
And then,
And I almost feel like you kind of see this like through their kind of like sexy scene together, like this
Right.
desensitivity
Mhm.
to that, which is kind of, and again, another thing I think the movie's talking about, with this like desensitivity through, all this exposure, because like at first he's like, you don't cut yourself. Like, why would you do that? You know what I
Right.
mean? And then as the night kind of progresses, he's now piercing her with
Right.
hot, a hot metal
Needle,
pin
like
or
a
needle
needle,
or
yeah.
something, so it's like he's being desensitized to her requests, and he's
Right.
like, all right, I will bodily mutilate you.
Right.
It's just a piercing, but
Right.
I'm not trying to over exaggerate it, but but he is participating in some of her
Sure.
darker things.
Well, and I mean they're having sex while Videodrome is on in the background.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where it's like it's this idea of where couples might watch porn when they're intimate
Sure.
or whatever, and in their instance it's Videodrome.
Right.
So it's like this whole other kind of sadomasochistic thing
Right.
that kind of embroils in their relationship. And obviously she leaves because she becomes so obsessed with Videodrome, she wants to go and be on it.
Right.
So it kind of takes it to that whole next level.
Yeah. Hey, I watched Survivor and wanted to be on it. I wanted to be a survivor, but I did not want to be whipped and
Right.
thrown against electric
That's
walls
different.
and that stuff.
That's different. I think
Little
that is
extra.
different. Is it though? Is it different? Maybe it is.
Maybe it's not. I mean, maybe in a way
not.
it's not. Like those, you go to. I mean, heck, you watch Survivor. People are starving themselves.
Sure.
Especially at least in the older days, they were. They weren't getting a lot of food, just eating rice and stuff. So yeah, in a way, it is a bodily harm that
Yeah.
you're willing to subject yourself to for money. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think there was at one point when I can't remember who confronted Max Renn with it, but he asked he was asked why would anybody watch it? Like, why do you get your kicks off watching murder and violence? I can't remember if that
Yeah.
was Barry Convex maybe or something like that, or
I can't remember
maybe.
exactly who either.
But it's a great question, because I think that there is like a certain element of that is again kind of a prescient question about just viewing audiences in general. Like, don't get me wrong, like I'm a big horror movie fan.
Sure.
There's all these things, and it's true. There's a lot of images in these movies that are would be considered kind of like crazy, like, oh man, like
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. But I think the one difference, especially with something like Videodrome, it's that idea of what's reality and what's fiction. And I
Mhm.
think if you can keep that in your mind, you can. It's I'm not going to say harmless, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like I obviously, in the refrain of, media is, ruining the minds of society has been, in the zeitgeist, obviously since Videodrome in the 80s, but even before that.
Way before that.
And, now it's used to try to deflect attention away from all kinds of things.
Sure. Yeah.
Whether it's mass shootings or, whatever. It's like, oh, it's the violent video games. Oh, it's the movies.
Right.
It's like all of these things. And, there is a personal responsibility aspect of it that I think people just usually leave out.
Yeah, that was a part of the movie I was like, oh man, I hope this movie isn't saying that TV is to blame. You know what I mean? Like, Videodrome is to blame for us being, you being violent. Like, it literally is to blame, because it is sending them, like, it is sending Max some kind of, like, wavelength thing,
Sure.
right? It's, again, kind of overly complicated, but like, so I'm like, man, I hope the movie's not saying that. But I think it is, or if it is, I think it is in a way where it's kind of like what we talked about with Pink Flamingos, where it's more like, it's the nightmare for people who think that, like, oh, this is what, this is a TV show that is poisoning your mind. Oh,
Right.
my.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And, there's this idea that, at least for me, what we see as like a modern viewing audience isn't necessarily the violence aspect of Videodrome. Now, and even maybe the sexual side of it, at least to the extreme. I think what we can kind of look at as a modern society, at least in certain ways, is this idea of, like, celeb reality, things like that, like just reality TV in general, if you will, where it's like it is creating this false sense of what reality is. And I do think that there's a certain element of that kind of makes people detach from actual reality.
Yeah.
You know what I
I'd say
mean?
so.
It turns everything into this reality TV show, which, I mean, sociopolitically in the U.S. right now, it is quite prevalent that we are, at least some people believe we live in a reality TV show, and are treating it as such.
Yeah, well, speaking of, isn't there that line from Harlan in the movie where he's like, his reasoning for at least joining the Videodrome crew is that North America is getting soft.
Yep.
Right?
The rest of the world is getting tough. Very, very tough. We're entering savage new times. We're going to have to be strong and direct to survive them. And I mean,
It's
I
kind of
think,
like, feels like saying, like, go against our morals. Like, try to be the best person. Just gotta be the toughest, the meanest. I'm like, no, that's not what we were built on, but whatever.
right. And it's like they were clearly trying to use Videodrome to kind
Yeah.
of create people like Max Renn, which is, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because, I mean, they were the ones who, originally kind of putting him on this path to kill Brian Oblivion's daughter. Forgot her name. But
Bianca,
thank you. And obviously she was able to kind of deprogram him, but then
Yeah.
obviously he goes on his own little killing spree at the end there, in
Yeah.
response to her. But, they were, trying to use Videodrome in that way.
I guess that was one thing I was kind of like, what is their end game? Like, are they trying to create assassins? Or are they trying just to, like, what was I don't really know what, like, all right, taking over Channel 83 to what end?
So basically what this is according to what people have posted on the Wikipedia page, is that they
gotta be
see
true.
that it's got to be true, that this group aims to end North America's cultural decay by using Videodrome to kill anyone too obsessed with sex and violence.
Okay.
So it's almost,
So if you're watching this because you're too obsessed with sex and violence, and then that's how
Right.
they're going. You'll be fine if you never watch, because you'll never, if you're a person that's not obsessed with sex and violence, you'd never come across it, or if you did, you wouldn't watch it anyway.
sure.
So it's punishing you for watching it.
Right. Which, again, there is like a religious aspect to the movie, I feel like, with Brian Oblivion,
Sure.
and like all of that. And it's interesting because he kind of becomes almost a splinter of this group. Obviously,
Yeah.
they end up killing him,
Yeah.
because of, him trying to stop them from their plan or whatever. But, there's a lot of people that, in modern culture that are really, there's like a really, obviously a big push to ban porn.
Sure.
Like nationwide, and kind of take America's, freedom away, the freedom of us to be able to just view these things,
Sure.
Even as adults, obviously
what's
it's under the
best-
guise
it's what's
of
best for
saving
you,
the children,
Rob.
but right, exactly. So it's almost like this group is almost an extreme version of that,
Yeah.
where it's like if you see these things, then you're gonna, yes, you're gonna turn into Max Renn, I guess.
Oh no, your hand's gonna turn into a gun. with screws in it going through his veins. Yeah,
Yeah.
that wouldn't be fun. I think I will say, I guess a critique to me would be like, I do think like the themes are there. You have to think about like because as the movie's going, you don't want to just pause. But I wonder what they're really saying. So you think about it at the end. But I do feel like in the movie, there's a couple times where I'm like, this is really murky about like what it's trying to do. Like when I guess when Max first confronted the guy.
Harlan?
No, not Harlan. Harlan's kind of
Barry
like boss.
Convex?
Barry.
Yeah, Barry Convex.
Yeah. It's like, I guess he put the tape in him. Like Barry
Right.
put the tape in
Right.
Rex. And I didn't get right away that like now he was programmed. So like he went to
sure.
his office and they're like, go kill your coworkers. I was like, well, Max isn't going to go kill his coworkers. And then
Yeah.
Max went and killed his coworkers. And I was like, what? Why did you do that?
Yeah.
And then like 2 minutes later, he's like, we've programmed you. I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I get it now. But
Yeah.
like in the moment, I didn't really get why he would do that. I didn't
Right.
know that the tape would have that kind of influence on him. And then you kind of learn, oh, he's like a VHS. He's like a VHS player. So he's got the VHS in him and he's doing whatever the VHS kind of says. But I thought it was kind of like it clears itself up. But there are times where I feel like your first watch through, it's murky.
Sure.
It's murky. Like you're hanging on, like I don't know what's going on, and then they give you enough to catch back up.
But I think in that context of trying to destroy anybody too overly obsessed with sex and violence would make sense, and that's why they had to stop CIVIC-TV, and they wanted CIVIC-TV because CIVIC-TV is where they were going to broadcast
That's where the audience,
Videodrome
yeah.
was. That
Right.
way they were going to ultimately broadcast Videodrome.
Yeah. Well, like I said, even you looked it up on Wikipedia so we could get a really good answer because it's like there's just a lot to it, so you could pick out a lot of different things, I guess, about what it was trying to say or what it was trying
Sure.
to do. So to kind of narrow in on something, it was a little challenging.
Yeah. But again, like I said, you brought up that line about North America is getting soft. Like I said, that's a lot of the reason why some of these like cultural groups are trying to get rid of or like ban pornography and things
Sure.
like that in states is because they say, oh, it's making young men soft or whatever.
Right.
They're obsessed or
Or
they're addicted to
desensitized
or addicted.
Can't love
They're-
anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
They're addicted to porn, so they can't. They're no longer tough, and so that is super prescient because that, again, like I said, that is an idea that is kind of pertinent now that people are kind of pushing in modern society.
Oh yeah, definitely not saying anything that that wasn't that any of this stuff wasn't prescient or doesn't hold true to the day for sure.
Well, it feels like we've talked a lot about the big themes of
Yes.
the movie because obviously there's a
a lot.
It almost feels like we haven't talked about the movie
I know.
as much as the overall themes, but they are hand in hand. You make
Sure,
the movie
sure.
because you're trying to say something. It's obviously what Cronenberg's trying to do, but this is maybe it's almost like a noir in a way,
Yeah.
because it is kind of like a mystery and things like that. But I understand. Obviously, I picked this movie to mess with you.
You did.
And our conversation at this point actually makes me think that maybe I didn't as much as I thought I did. So you know what? Before we dive, I'm gonna mix things up a little bit. It's my
Okay.
birthday month. I'm gonna do it how I want to do it. So I'm
I'll
actually gonna
allow it. This is my gift to you.
so I'm going to ask the big question now, and then let's get into some other aspects of the movie. So Ray,
Yeah.
did you like Videodrome, and would you recommend it?
I almost were like, did you like this?
I know.
You weren't supposed to like
I know. Well, it's not that you weren't supposed to, but I wasn't sure.
Well, this is like maybe the first time where I have two separate answers for that one question where I'm
Oh
like,
boy.
I think I did like this.
Oh yes.
But I don't think I would recommend it to many people
Happy
either.
birthday to me.
Yeah, I did like that. Yeah, we can talk about some aspects of why I liked it since we can get into the pub, but I don't think I would recommend it to a lot of people though. I'll say
Sure.
that. But
Again, you're not gonna take it home to mom.
no, I'm not gonna. Hey, let's watch this together. No, but I kind of liked it. You know what I mean? Like I thought that the mystery part of this, the slow burnish, like I guess the noir part, the TV
Yeah.
producer noir, like as he's figuring out this mystery, I was kind of into it. I liked it.
Yeah.
Like I thought James Wood was great.
Yeah.
The movie. Sometimes you like, I don't know, like I think I kind of asked you if we go way back a year ago, like when we watched Blue Velvet. I was like, does the movie work if it's not just like if you take out the themes, does the movie work on its own? It's
Sure.
something that I struggled with Blue Velvet, and really I think that's what I was expecting with Videodrome. Was like it's going to be a lot of body horror. There's going to be a lot of like exploding puppets and stuff, or ugly looking people.
Sure.
But is the movie going to exist, like be good beyond that?
Yeah.
And are people just in love with that aspect of what Cronenberg does? And to me, I'm like, yeah, this movie does, because there's a noir to it, there's a mystery to it,
Right.
that you can kind of figure out. There's bad guys to dislike, there's good people to like and root for. I'm like, yeah, it works for me on like that. So I enjoyed all that aspects. And then when you throw the themes on top of it, even though I think, like I said, you got to take a moment to think about it. And it's hard to do that because the movie is so deep and there's so much depth to it. It's hard to do it while you're watching.
Right.
I think on a first viewing, but as you just like take that step back and like, all right, what was it saying about this? What was it saying about that? That's why I kind of like having these discussions to kind of like crack that code. And then I think you like it more and more. And I kind of, yeah, I dug it. You failed, sir.
I did.
You
No,
failed,
I mean
sir.
that is not a failure. That is a success, because what I want to, while I am messing with you to a certain degree, I want you to like these movies. I've
Yeah.
never recommended a movie that I haven't wanted you to like. That's never happened, and it never will. But I'm glad it didn't for this one. And like I said, I think Videodrome, I agree with you completely. It works as a noir and a mystery. You know, I think it pulls you in quickly. It builds the world, quickly enough.
Yeah.
You attach yourself to the Max Renn character, and you're right. He's not unlikable, like as
Yeah.
being kind of this kind of slimy guy.
Producer, showrunner.
Right, like he's not necessarily an unlikable guy. Even when he gets on like that panel discussion with Nikki and all that, and he kind of comes off as a little creepy at times.
You fell in love. It was love at first sight.
Right, love it. Clearly it was. But you're still, like you said, you're still kind of
Yeah.
rooting for him. And
He did want to protect Nikki too. Like he
right, he
did
told her
not
not to
want
go.
Her, he did not want her to go.
Yeah, which I think it's great you pointed that out, because I do think that is a great moment for him as a character, because for being as hot for Videodrome as he was, when he found out like she could go, he was like, whoa, like no, don't do this, like. And so it was really kind of I think a heroic moment for him to kind of like see past his own greed of like being able to have possible access to this show, and be like, no, like I'd rather you be safe.
Yeah.
So I think that was a great Max Renn moment in this movie.
So just this being my first exposure to Cronenberg, like, again, I thought this was going to make me kind of not a fan. Like I thought I was expecting to be like, all right, I got to dip my toe in the water. I don't want to dive back into that pool again.
Sure.
But now I'm kind of like, all right, well, if he can balance the monsterish, body horror-ish stuff in other movies too, because he's got other movies that are more popular than this. Obviously, I know The Fly. It's probably way more mainstream, but
Yeah, I mean,
but like there'd be other stuff that I could possibly like.
sure. Well, I mean, and there's also stuff that's not necessarily body horror, like
Yeah.
A History of Violence or Eastern Promises. Those are two movies right off the top of my bat that off the top of my head that you might like. Just because they're not necessarily that kind of fare. But there are other movies, if you are interested in going down this road, that you're great. Scanners is a great movie. Shivers is a great movie. Crash. I almost showed you Crash. Because it's kind of in that same kind of psychosexual vein, because it's about people that have a sexual perversion for car crashes. So it's
kind of like that Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler, where it's like you're kind of like get to the scene first, see this disgusting thing first.
Yeah, it's a little more sexualized than that, but
Okay.
like, yeah, I get where you're coming from. But yeah, so it definitely, if you like Videodrome, there's definitely more Cronenberg avenues we can go down.
All right, I don't want to go too far down the alley. Like maybe just tiptoe down the alley, go one house down, and see
Sure.
what's there.
Sure. Before we finish off with Videodrome, Cronenberg in general, we have to, and I already asked the big question,
Right.
So we're going to reverse ordering this. So let's talk a little bit about
little
the
question.
small question that we asked. Did Videodrome come true?
Sad to say, I think it did come true. I think it came true in a different way than the movie predicted, because TV, in a way, I think is, I don't think Videodrome is TV, but I do think social media is Videodrome. I think you're getting messages sent to your brain.
Sure.
It's more direct. It's not really. They don't really try to hide it as
Right.
much as they at Videodrome thought they would have
No
to.
new flesh
Yeah.
being built.
No, yeah, we don't have to. We can come right out and poison you, and you will digest it.
Sure.
And I'm a victim of it too, for sure. But yeah, I think it did come true. It's just in a different way. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Especially it had been a little bit since I'd watched Videodrome, so I was, it's always interesting. I think we might have said this in other other episodes about other movies, where it's always interesting to revisit a movie at a certain point in time when context matters. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things about Videodrome that I can see parallels with modern society, and especially the way that people use media in general to not and I will say I'm definitely one of those people that kind of hates the cop out of the media is just being media-y,
Sure.
and it's I think that sometimes that can come off as a bit trite and a bit okay, yeah, you can it's so vague it can mean anything.
Sure.
So I definitely like some more specificity, but I do think Videodrome kind of does take some of those specific elements and explores them in a good way. Like I said, you mentioned the idea of this the way that people are. I will use the word controlled, but I'm not trying to get into the conspiratorial mind control. But just it doesn't even have to get that deep. Like you said, it doesn't really have to.
Right.
Where people are kind of
It's not
moved
that
one
hard.
way or another. Right. And that's almost it's almost the saddest part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's we always want to create these big grand conspiracies, but really it's not usually that complicated to do some of these things where it's
Nope.
we can usually be swayed one way or another and relatively easily with just doing little things here or there. But I do me, for me personally, I do have a lot of issues with reality TV, and I do think that comes down to that point of where reality TV is not reality. So what Brian Oblivion said about life on television compared to life in the flesh, I think is, while I obviously I understand what he's saying in the context of this movie, I do think in real life it has become more of a mantra, if you will.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Where it's not a true statement, but it's a mantra that people believe is a true statement. Maybe I'll say it that way.
I think that's fair.
And I think that's kind of it's become problematic in certain ways, because I think people have just kind of detached farther from reality, somewhat like Max Renn.
Is there a sequel to Videodrome so we can have the solution to that problem?
No, there is not. It's just Oblivion at that point. It's just the sequel to Videodrome is Oblivion, and yeah, we're there.
All right, Rob. Well, before we completely end this conversation for Videodrome, what have you been watching recently?
Man, I've actually been watching a lot. So let's see. I watched Apartment 7A, which is kind of the Rosemary's Baby prequel movie that's on Paramount Plus. And it has why is my mind going blank? She's Silver Surfer, going to be Silver Surfer.
Yeah, I never watched Ozark, so
Yep,
her name's
from
not in my
Ozarks.
brain.
Oh crap, Julia Garner. There it is. I knew it was coming there. But it was pretty good. I think it's not. It definitely doesn't reach the heights of the original. I love the original Rosemary's Baby, so had a quite a mountain to climb going into it. But I think they did a good job of kind of matching the tone a little bit. Diane Wiest is in it, who she takes over the Ruth Gordon character, and you know how great Ruth Gordon is. So that's it's pretty much an impossible feat, but she gives it her best shot. But we watched that. I watched The Monkey, the new Osgood Perkins horror movie that's based on the Stephen King short story.
Okay.
That was pretty good. I mean, I feel like you have to like Osgood Perkins' movies to get into it, like Long Legs and stuff like that. And it's not like a horror movie in the strictest sense of being a horror movie. It's almost more like a dark comedy with horror elements to it in a way. But I like his style overall. Did you know he's Anthony Perkins' son?
No.
I just found that out recently. I actually did not know that.
I
It was
did
after
not
I
know
watched
that.
after I watched Long Legs. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that till after that. So that was a little bit not surprising though. I mean, the guy that plays Norman Bates' son is kind of messed up. I get that. Let's see. Then I watched My Old Ass, which is Aubrey Plaza movie where she
Oh,
plays like the older
yeah.
version of a younger self, and the younger self interacts with her through like an acid trip, and then they end up being able to communicate through her cell phone. That ended up being pretty good. I was actually
cool.
shocked how good that was. I walked in thinking it was going to kind of be more of a goofy comedy,
Yeah.
and there were comedic elements, but I think it's a much deeper movie.
Aubrey Plaza's pretty good.
Yeah, I highly recommend that, actually, especially for something that kind of took me by surprise. And then, Mr. Kitty Kaiju was in studio,
Just last week.
So he recommended, he's on summer vacation right now.
Sure.
So, he and I got a lot of time, and he recommended something to me, and he'd been dying for me to watch. So first order of business of the summer was he wanted me to watch Gravity Falls.
And you
the
did.
Disney animated series, and man, that was really good.
Oh, cool.
It's super fun. It's got a lot of lore, which he loves.
That's what he
lore.
loves.
He loves lore. So there's a lot of that, a lot of interconnectivity to it. It feels like a precursor show to like something that, for somebody who's going to grow up to watch Venture Brothers or
Which
Rick
is
and
your
Morty,
favorite
which
show.
is one of my favorite shows, if not my favorite show of all time. So it's super fun to kind of see him into something like that I can, like I said, I'm super excited when he gets old enough to watch Venture Brothers, because that's going to be an amazing day. But let's see. What about you, man? What have you been watching?
I got a ton of stuff on here too. I got to give a shout out to Wheel of Time season 3.
Nice.
As you know, I started reading the books because I was like, I was kind of getting in the show. I wanted to dive in a little bit deeper, kind of work the books along with the show. Then, of course, as soon as I get to this point, they cancel the show.
Yeah.
So we got to fans unite, see if we can get it brought back. I don't think it's going to happen, but just when it was starting to really get good and really hit its stride, they canceled it, as networks often do. They're going to keep that Lord of the Rings crap show, but they're canceling this. So whatever, Prime.
No rhyme or reason any of that anymore.
Yeah, you can't figure it out. I did jump onto Disney Plus and check out the new Snow White because it had just been reviewed so poorly.
Yeah.
It had been delayed for so long.
Yeah.
I wanted to check it out, and to me, as far as Snow White movies go, it was fine.
I can't say I'm a huge fan of the original.
Me either. So I don't really think it was. I'm not going to say that it's all that worse than the original, in my opinion. So, but you know what? That is a remake, and I feel like these Disney remakes maybe need to be explored.
Oh.
Maybe we can do that on a different podcast.
I know we have a show we can do that on.
Yeah, let's think about that. I finished Welcome to Wrexham season 4. I think I've talked about that before on the podcast. I love Welcome to Wrexham. It's like Ted Lasso in real life. It's a great show. Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney are like doing amazing real life things. They're making a buck off it through the television show, but I think I do think it's been awesome. I finished Ironheart.
Oh, sure.
Which again was another thing that I thought was reviewed poorly at first, but like is actually really pretty good.
Okay.
I'm not sure why Disney or why Marvel kept it on the shelf for so long. It's pretty solid. So if they released this a couple years ago, they wouldn't have had all the hate that they have right now for just not being able to put out good content. I give it a solid 7. Like it's a very solid show.
Okay.
It's a very solid show. They do some really interesting things. Iron Man's been explored to death, so to kind of be able to do some new things even within the Iron Man part of Ironheart is cool. Okay. So I really like that. And there's 2 things I know we both have watched. We didn't watch them together, but we both have watched. We both have watched Sinners.
Yes, we did watch
really
Sinners.
good. Fantastic. Obviously, everybody says it's really good.
Ryan Coogler is amazing.
Ryan Coogler had something to do with Ironheart. And he was the executive producer, so I think he's got the magic touch right now. I really, really liked Sinners. Like I will say, I kind of went into it with everybody in the world telling me this is the best movie ever. So I'm like expecting a 10 out of 10, and in my brain, I think it's an 8 out of 10, which is still a really good movie.
Sure.
But I kind of was like, oh man, everybody says it's gonna be the greatest movie ever. But sometimes a lot of those horror aspects just don't hit with.
Well, I was gonna say it's not really your kind of movie, to be.
But it was
honest.
an 8 out. I still thought it was really good.
Michael B. Jordan is like
great.
Seriously one of the best actors working right now. Like that guy consistently blows me away.
Yeah, really, really good. And then we both watched the Minecraft movie.
Yes, we did both watch. Well, yeah, that was an experience because, it took us a while in our household to get to it, and it's one of those movies that kind of permeated the zeitgeist, especially with Mr. Kitty Kaiju and like a lot of
all over
friends.
YouTube and stuff.
It's all over YouTube. It almost kind of like this brain rot element to it. That's kind of like, and so he went into it pretty down on it, like not even sure if he really even wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he probably came out thinking. I remember he told me it was better than he expected,
Yeah.
and I can probably agree with him. But I didn't go in with rock bottom expectations, so I went in with kind of middle of the road because once I knew that Jared Hess directed it, I expected that kind of Napoleon Dynamite goofiness.
Yeah.
And I think if you go in knowing that, you can appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I think it actually looks great.
Oh,
Like
it's so good. The world is insane.
Yeah, after the first trailer, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna. I think this maybe be a bit too cartoony, but no, I think the world looks good. I think I mean, I don't mean this as a slight necessarily, but I think the visuals are by far the best part of the movie.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah,
that's
yeah,
just
for
to say
sure.
that's just to say they're impressive. The story, like it's I think the story overall is okay. I think some of the character arcs are wonk.
They're
They try to do a
fine,
lot of
yeah,
stuff.
they're fine.
They're fine. I think I would have liked to seen more about like the building and construction aspect of
Sure.
Minecraft is instead of
Yeah.
like the going after the this item and then that item and this. But that's how movies are structured. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, probably I would agree. I think probably a little bit better than I expected, but I was expecting brain rot kind of stuff. So,
Sure.
but so I was kind of pleasantly surprised
They
with it.
probably let a little. I think they let Jack Black off the chain a little too much.
Yeah.
I think I think that was also part of it. They let him kind of go full Jack Black, and I don't know
Yeah.
if you should ever let him go full Jack
You
Black.
got to be careful. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
I mean, I say it's equivalent to like a Mario to me. It's right up
Really?
there. Same
Like the
kind of deal.
new animated.
Yeah, which I'm not a
Not the '90s one.
no, no. They do not compare to the '90s one, and I won't say which way I'm going on that.
I think everybody already knows.
All right, Rob. Well, we are wrapping up our conversation on Videodrome, a movie I liked, but would not recommend necessarily. But I don't actually have to say this last part because we've already kind of found ways to get the audience to do this throughout the episode through their minds.
Exactly.
But I am going to say it to those people
Just
that
to
were
be on the safe
just
side.
in case they
I
were
think it's good,
resistant.
just to be on the safe side.
If you did resist it, please find the time to like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a 5-star review. If you do, we'll read it live on air someday. Don't forget, you guys can reach out to me and Rob on email at carrayrob@gmail.com or on Blue Sky at carrayrob.
Absolutely. If you would also share the podcast, that would be amazing. We are trying to grow our community in any way we can, and your help would be greatly appreciated. If there is a comment section on whatever platform you're on, by all means, leave us a comment. What did you think of Videodrome? Did it come true? We want to hear about that. Also, let us know what your favorite David Cronenberg movie is. Maybe that would be the next movie that Ray watches.
I would consider it.
Absolutely. We will be back next week with this month's A Copy of a Copy. And Ray and I are taking a look at I'm going to call it a stealth remake.
Ooh.
It is a movie that is a remake, but it's not an advertised remake. And that is Casablanca and the 1996 sci-fi movie Barb Wire.
I'm interested.
Exactly. It is not going to want to be missed. In 2 weeks, though, it will be back to Ray, and I'm very excited to see what he has in store for me.
You shouldn't be.
I shouldn't?
I don't know.
Are you
Hopefully you
going
are.
to try to mess with me like I messed with you with Videodrome?
I'm considering it.
All right. Well, you know what? Bring your best. Give me your best shot.
I know what you wouldn't like, so and I have one ready to go if I want to go down that road. But I might save that bullet.
Okay. Well, that is intriguing. So you are definitely not going to want to miss that. But until then, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And remember, be defined by the films you love, not the ones you hate.
Hey there, it'll be just a little while till Ray and Rob spit their spittle. Come on, check out of the hospital. So grab some of your best peanut brittle. This will be a darn good transmittal. And say hello to my little film.
All right, guys, I want to give you a sneak peek. In 2 weeks, it'll be my turn to recommend a movie to Rob for Say Hello. And what I'm going to recommend him is a trip back to high school. Back in high school, we all had to read that book, The Lord of the Flies by Sir William Golding. That book brings up a lot of traumatic memories for me, but the movie helps soothe some of those. So I'm going to see if I can have that same effect for Rob. The movie stars Balthazar Getty and Chris Futch. And obviously, if you haven't read the book, it's about a school of boys kind of marooned on an island, and then kind of what happens as these these two leaders, played by those actors I mentioned before, try to set up a society on this island as they wait to get rescued. And as you can imagine, things go downhill pretty quickly. Check it out. It's a great movie. Read the book. It's probably a better book, I'll be honest, but read the book. And come back and join us in 2 weeks on Say Hello to My Little Film.